And now we're on Daf Mem Hey Amud Beis. And again, when we said that Midnei Tikkun Olam here at the end of our Mishnah, we have two interpretations. Is it because if we spend an exorbitant amount, it's going to deplete the resources of the tzibur, or alternatively, we're worried about the fact that it's going to encourage those who abscond with our Sfarim to do it again and again and again because they make it such a profitable business. Amalei Rav Budia, Rav Ashi, we learned in that Mishnah that we don't redeem from the Akum Sifrei Torah above and beyond their value. It means that if we could strike up a deal and we could redeem the Sfarim at their value, then we're encouraged to do so. Yes, Al Kedei Demeim Hudi and Lochid. The implication is Al Kedei Demeim, if we can get the captors to accept the market value, then Lochim, then we have to purchase or redeem those Sifrei Torah. Now, what are we going to do with these Sifrei Torah? Maybe the Sifrei Torah were written in an improper way. Shmami, no, we have to derive, says Rav Budia, from our Mishnah, that Sefer Torah Shenimtza B'Yad Akum is Korinbo. Even if we don't know, we have some doubts about the origin of this Sefer Torah, and here we have something unbelievable from a contemporary perspective. It's very hard for us to understand this, but Ein Choshen Shema Goy Ksav. Apparently, Goyim at that time would write Sifrei Torah, either because, I don't know, the Old Testament was part of their religious, or maybe because they wanted to sell to the Jews. So we see, says Rav Budia, that we don't have to worry that a Sefer Torah that we find that looks identical to all our Sifrei Torah was written by a guy. And Rav Ashi, when he heard this statement from Rav Budia, he responded, Dilma Lignos. You know what? Maybe when we redeem these Sfarim, Kidei Demehem, which is permissible, we're not going to read from this Sifrei Torah. We're not going to assume that these are Sifrei Torah Ksherim, but Lignos. On the side that maybe it was written by a Yisrael, we have to treat it with all due respect. And we can't allow it to be mutal bevizayon in the hands of the guy. We have to redeem it on the side that it was written by Yisrael in order to protect Kedushas Sefer Torah. But we cannot read from it because we always have to be choshesh that maybe the guy was the one who wrote the Sefer Torah, and he's pawning it off as if it was a bona fide Sefer Torah. And this whole sugya assumes that a guy cannot write a Sefer Torah bekashrus. We'll soon see that that's not universally accepted. Rav Nachman, Naktinon, we have halacha that we received in transmission that Sefer Torah sheksavo min, that if an idol worshiper would write a Sefer Torah, let's say he's a priest amongst their idol worshippers. Yisar, if we have to burn it. It was written with the Azkaros, meaning the names of God, L'shem Avodah Zarah. Ksavo v'kochavim, meaning if he's not a min, then yigonis. Then we put it into Kniza. What's the difference here between a min and an Oved Kochavim? The Gemara is going to explain later on. And this has to do with one principle that establishes that a Sefer Torah written by an Akum, even though he's not, let's say, one of the priests of the idol worshippers, nevertheless, we have a principle called She'eno B'Kshira, Eno B'Ksiva, that since the guy does not have the mitzvah of of tefillin. Therefore, he's not kosher to write a Sefer Torah. So that equation between tefillin and Sefer Torah is going to come around the bend. Nimtza biad min. So we don't know who wrote the Sefer Torah, but it's in the possession of a min, right? One of these hardcore idolaters. But it may have been written by a Jew. Yigones, in such a suffix situation, we're not going to burn it because we don't know for sure it was written by a min. On the other hand, we can't read from it and consider it as Sefer Torah kosher because perhaps it was written by a min. So on the tzad that it was written by a Jew, also levazos and yigones. On the tzad that it was written by a min, then we should really be burning the Sefer Torah, but we're not going to burn it because it might have been written by a Jew. Is therefore we put it into Geniza. And Geniza is the opposite of Bizoyim on the tzad that it was written by a Jew. Nimtza b'yad obed kol chavim. So we're talking about a Sefer Torah that's being, let's say, marketed by a guy, and we don't know if the guy himself wrote the Sefer Torah. Is here we have a machlokas. Amri, according to one opinion, Yigones. Maybe it was written by a guy. The Amri law, and there's another opinion that says Korenbo. Why Korenbo? So here we have, in the name of Rashi, a sfek speaker. First of all, maybe it was written by a Jew. And secondly, even if it was written by a guy, and the guy was motivated to sell it to the Jew, therefore, he didn't write it for the purpose of Avodah Zarah, as opposed to a min about whom we assume that he certainly wrote it l'shem Avodah Zarah, meaning the Shemos. Now, further in Hilchos Sefer Torah, that was written by a guy, Sefer Torah sheksav a guy, Ovei Kol Chavim. Tani Chada, one Brisa says, Yisaref, we have to burn it. Tanya Idoch, a second Brisa says, Yigones, we have to put into Geniza. Tanya Idoch Korimbo. This is the last shita here, which we'll see is Rav Shimon Gamliel. He's of the opinion that we don't have a hekesh between Kshira of Tefillin and Sefer Torah, and even a guy is kosher to write a Sefer Torah. Lo kash. And now the Gemara works out the three brisos based on three different. The three brisos with the three different opinions. Lo kash. Hadisanya Yisaref, according to one brisa, that was the first of the three that we burned the Sefer Torah. Is that's Rabbi Eliezer Hidiyoma. Rabbi Eliezer says that even the shechita of a Jew for a guy is psula. This behema belongs to a guy, and the shechita of this behema makes the behema into what's called takroves avodah zarah, and you're not allowed to have any hanofa. And by process of analogy, in the case of Ksiva Sefer Torah, we assume that the machshav of a guy was for the purpose of avodah zarah, and therefore it's aser ba'nov yisaref, it has to be burnt. So it's really interesting because if the Jew actually did the shechita, but the behemoth was owned by a guy, then we assume, according to Rav Eliezer, that the guy's machshava can impact on the shechita of Yisrael and make the behemoth into takrovis avodah zarah and sasur b'ana. Now we have another brisa that says Tov Shkoso Go Yigones. Hi Tanahu. We should identify that as the Tana of the brisa of Rabbi Menuna Brei the Rabbi Miparsharoni. Sefer Torah Tefillin u'Mezuzos Sheksavan. Okay, now here we have a girsa problem. So wait, if we have to take out the word min, that I understood, because in the case of a min, we don't have to say kol sheina b'kshira and b'ksiva because he writes it for the sake of avodah zarah. So are we substituting a different word? Let me just see. It seems to me that they're just simply omitting the word min, but then it says umasar. So I don't know what the vav of umasar is. Oh, I think I know. Instead of the word min, we should have the word mumar. And mumar and masur is someone who confiscates the possessions of Jews in order to give it to the goyim. Then we have an Ovid Kochavim, and we have an Eved Knani, and an Isha, and a Katan, and a Kusi. But now it says Yisrael Mumar. So again, I submit to you, I don't understand the Vav of Umasur if you take out the word Min. That's that extra Vav. Right now, I don't see an interpretation. Psulin. So in all these cases, they're possible because of a hekesh to tefillin. Shenever ukshartem uksavtem. Kol sheyeshna b'kshira, yeshna b'ksiva. Kol sheyna b'kshira, ena b'ksiva. Now, ena b'kshira here means two things. Number one, it means that he has no mitzvah of tefillin. Like, for example, an Isha, she doesn't have a mitzvah of tefillin because it's a mitzvah seishas mein grom, a laila loves man tefillinu, and Eved Kanani is hukash leisha. Katan is potem mikol mitzvahs. But all those, like Isha, Katan, Kusi, Yisrael, Mumar, are obligated in kshiras tefillin, whereas Ovi Kochav doesn't have the mitzvah of tefillin. But even if you have the mitzvah of tefillin, if right now you're patur, then you're not included in uksharta. And that memeli, you're not included in uksavta. So the Gemara now says, Vatanya, what about the brisa? Oh, yeah. So we went through 2 out of 3 of the brises. And now we're up to the third brisa of Korinbo. So the Sefer Torah is written by a guy, and we could read it. Hi Tanu de Tanya, Lokhin Sfarm and of the Kachobachol Mokum Vachu Ksum Kil Chasan. Umaisabo Vikachob Mecha Mitzidon Shoyakosu Sfarm, the Heater of Shimon Gamliel Likach Mimen. So therefore, the brisa that says that we can read from a Sefer Torah and it's kosher, even though it was written by a guy, reflects the shita of Shimon Gamliel, who is quoted in this last brisa as the Bar Plukta of the Tanakama, who says that we have this hekesh between Kshiras Tefillin and Ksiva Sefer Torah. Wait a minute, it could be the Tanakama is also, one second. So the Tanakama and Rav Shimon Gamliel agree that if the Ovid Kochavim wrote the Sefer for the sake of selling it to a Jew, then he didn't have in mind L'Shem Avodah Zarah. It's not like a min. And even though he's not included in what? In Kshiras Tefillin, nevertheless, he's still included in Ksiva Sefer Torah. And the Gemara asks Rav Shimon Gamliel, therefore, when the Torah requires that a Sefer Torah should be Lishma, it means Ibud Lishma, boy. We only require that the tanning of the hides should be for the sake of Kedusha Sefer Torah, Ksiva Lishma and lo boy. But we don't need that the writing should be for the express purpose of Kedusha Sefer Torah. In any event, we see from this brisa of Shimon Gamliel requires Ibud Klaf Lishman. Isanya. Where do we know that Rav Shimon Gamliel requires Ibud Klaf Lishma? Tzipon, if he covers the Shalrosh with a tzipui, a covering of zav, of gold, Osheb Tola Aleim, or Behemoth Mea, if the bias of the tefillin was made from the hides of a non-kosher animal, psulos. And this is based on the Gemara in Shabbos Kufches on the pasuk in Shmos Yud Gimel, Vayilchol Yosal Yadecha L'Zikron Beinecha, that tefillin have to be made from that which is beficha. The Torah says, beficha lecha. But or behemoth tahora ksheros. If the klaf, or I should say not the klaf right now, but the batim were made from or behemoth tahora ksheros. Afal pishalo ivdan lishman. According to Tanakama, you don't require ibud lishma, l'shem kedushas tefillin. Shimon Gamliel disagrees. Afilu arbe mator psulos ad she'abdom lishman. So we see that Rav Shimon Gamliel requires that even the ibud of the klafis lishma has to be done lishma, and how much more so that the ksiv has to be done lishma. So why was he machshir the ksiv of a guy? How do you know that the guy had in mind Lishma, L'Shem Kedusha Sefer Torah? And the Gemara answers, Amar Rabba Bar Shmuel Beger Shechaza L'Suro. This was a non-Jew who desisted from worshiping idols. And therefore he's very much aware of the requirement of Ksiva Lishma. But he's called an Oved Kochav because he reverted back to his original idolatrous practices. Frek Gemara, L'Suro Kolshkein Dehavile Min. How much more so is he a min who's so dedicated to Avodah Zarah that his ksiva would be L'Shem Avodah Zarah? And that's why he went back to his original ways. We're talking about a case where the government issued a law that any non-Jew that converts to Judaism is going to be put to death. And therefore the ger, even though he's a sincere ger, out of fear of the government that he might be caught, he reverted back to his idolatrous practices on the outside, but it was only Mishum Yira, and therefore he is a reliable ger, and he writes Lishma. Ton Rabbanon, Malin b'dmeim ad kidei trafak. We'll soon see what a trafak is. And you're allowed to add a trafak above the value of the Sefer Torah, the Tefillin, the Mezuzahs, because it's a very insignificant amount of money. And that's not going to encourage the goyim to abscond with more sfarim. Frek Gemara my tarpov, Rav Sheshes is tira. That's called the Sela Medina, which is a chatzi dinar. Gemara tells the following story about Abaye. Oh no, we're not yet. This is the story of Abai. This story totally shocks me. He Taya, right? There was a Yishmaelis, the Asoy, that she brings chayta, an entire sack full of tefillin, and she says to Abai, L'kami Abai, how much are you willing to pay me for it? Amalei, so Abai was mezalzel, and he says, Yovisli reish betamre. If you'll agree to sell it to me, each pair of tefillin for a date, a tamar, I'll buy it back from you. She gets very angry, very insulted. Imalia Zira, she was full of an eris, like a venom. Shakla, she took the tefillin shedesinu, but now she threw it, chucked it into the river. Amar Abai took the blame for this. Lo yiboyle zalzulinu bi'apakuli. I shouldn't have been mezalzel in the tefillin in her presence. So on. As a result, the tefillin end up in the river. And this leads to the Mishnah of Nidarim. What happened? A man divorced his wife, and now he wants to remarry her. And why did he divorce his wife? Because she took a certain neder. And he says, I don't want to marry a woman, remain married to a woman who's a nadranit. Or he heard a shemra. He heard a rumor that she had an immoral, adulterous relationship, and then he divorced her. And another tikkun olam was lo yachzer, you can never remarry her. And we'll see exactly why. Mishum neder lo yachzer. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, it depends on what kind of neder she took and why he divorced her. Kol neder she other by Rabbim, if it was public knowledge, and a neder al das b'fnei Rabbim is ein lo hafara. Such a neder is pritzus and lo yachzer. It's like the case before of mishum shemra. But shalo yadu bo Rabbim, if no one knew about the neder and therefore lends itself to hafara, is yachzer. If he wants, after giving her a divorce, he can remarry. Rabbi Meir Omer, called neder shetzorach hakiras chacham lo yachzir, v'she'eno tzorach hakiras chacham is yachzir. Okay, so we have to explain Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir holds the following. This whole business about a tikkun olam, that he shouldn't remarry his divorced wife, is because people will say that he's remarrying her because he realizes that he never should have divorced her from the get-go. And therefore, people are going to say that his original gerushin is gerushay tos. And if she was married to someone else, they're going to say that the children are mamzerim. So we have to convince him that, look, buddy, if you decide to divorce your wife, you have to be 1,000% check out all possibilities until you're convinced that you want to divorce your wife, and know full well you will not be able to remarry. And then everybody's going to understand that your gerushin is final and she had a right legally to get remarried and the children are not mamzer. Reb Meir adds the following twist. He says that if the neder is not something that lends itself to hafara, but rather the chacham could be mater on neder, then lo yachzir, he's not allowed to remarry her. Why? If he could claim, if I would have known that the chacham would find a pesach to be mater the neder, I wouldn't have divorced her. So you can't hold me responsible for having come to 1,000% conclusion I definitely want to divorce her, because it never occurred to me that the chacham would be mater the neder. Had I only known that, I wouldn't have divorced her. And then you get into the whole kilkul that people are going to say that the children from a second husband are mamzerim. But if it's a neder that lends itself to hafara, then he's not going to be able to say, well, if I would have known that, that the chacham would be mater, I wouldn't have been magarsha. He can be mater the neder by being made for the neder himself. So if there's no room for his claiming, well, I made a mistake, and I didn't check it out thoroughly, and therefore the get was never chal, he knows that he can be made for a neder, and he decided, you know what, I'm not going to be made for a neder, I'm going to divorce. I don't want a wife who's a nadranit. He made 1,000% decision that he wants to divorce her. And therefore, no one's going to be motzi laz if she got married to someone else. Rav Elazar turns to a mayor and he says, "Lo asru zel b'nei zeh." If a man divorces a wife because she took a neder that requires a heter chachamim, meaning a chakiras chacham latiro, that's why they said, the Rabbanan said he can't remarry her. What does that mean? Element plays that. Because in the case where she took a neder that the Baal could be meifir, and it doesn't require any chakiras chacham, so the Baal could say, if I had only known that I could be meifir this neder, I wouldn't have been divorced her. And now we have the whole problem of kilkul and hotzas las. But if it's a neder she'ena yachal lahafer, then for sure he was megarsha, because ein adam rotze shetisbaze ishto bebezdin levakesh hetel nedarim. So he's not going to wait around until Bezdin can be mater on neder, and therefore he's going to give her a divorce. And we have to worry about a situation where he could have been made for a neder, and then he's going to claim, I didn't know that I could be made for a neder. Omer Rab Yossi, Rab Yehuda, Maisa B'Tzidon, V'Echad Shomer L'Ishto Konam. He took upon himself a vow on all the parents in the world that they should be osir on him b'hana im eini megarsha sheikh. And the Gersha, and then he went to a Chacham, and he was shol on his neder. The Chacham was mater his neder. Okay, so the Gemara is going to explain what Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda's argument is all about. In any event, the Mishnah says that if a man divorces his wife because of a neder or shemra, he's not allowed to remarry her. Rabbi Yossi, Bar Yomi, Rabbi Nachman, vehu sha'amar la. This only applies if at the time of the Gerushin, he made a statement that because of your Shem Ra, that's why I'm giving you a divorce. Or because you took a neder, that's why I'm giving you a divorce. Mishum neder ani motzia, on the top of Memphah. Because Rav Nachman holds time of my, why did the Chacham say you can't remarry her? Is Mishum Kilkula. We're afraid that after she gets married to someone else, he's going to find out that the Shema was not true. It was all a libel, a lie, or the neder that she took has a heter through the Chacham. And he's going to say, well, if I would have known that this Shema is not true, or that you could get a heter in the dorm, I never would have divorced you. And that's going to be a tremendous kilkul, because people are going to say that the children from this her second marriage are mamzer. Yomer lahachi motzi mekalkala. If at the time of the Gerushin he made that statement that I'm divorcing you because of the shemra or because of the neder, then we're not going to allow him to remarry. Ve'ilo, but if he didn't make that statement, lo motzi mekalkala. If he didn't spell it out at the time of the Gerushin that that's the reason why he's Megarisha, we're not Choshesh that if he remarries her before she married someone else, then there'll be some sort of hotzas las that the original gerushin was not. Okay, then. So we're here on the top of Mem Vav Amid Al. All right, let me wish you a great Shabbos and thank you so much.